You're good.
Great. I would like to call to order the Historic Resources Commission meeting. Today is August 19th, 2021. Time is a little bit after 4 o'clock. The next business meeting is Thursday, September 2nd, 2 p.m. The next hearing is Thursday, September 16th, same room. If I can have staff introduce themselves.
Alex Howard Smith, technical assistant.
Thank you for your help. Connie Corbin. We both swear and affirm to tell the truth of today's testimony. Great, thank you. And let's go with the commissioners. If I can start on my right.
Good evening, I'm Todd Green, I'm an architect.
My name is Stuart Gibney.
Magnuson Hall, urban pattern.
Great. Do we have any public forum?
No, no public.
So apparently we do have some staff approvals that we need to take a peek at and make a motion for approval.
Yeah, page 5 of the agenda.
I move that we approve said approvals.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
So now that we're through that, we also have some meeting minutes from the July meeting to approve. As well.
That we approve the minutes for the July 15th. There a second?
Yeah, have a second.
Second.
Thank you so much. Any further discussion? If not, we'll entertain the motion to approve those for the permanent record. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And for the record, Joseph McCabe has joined us for the meeting. Thank you. So that brings us down to our applications. It appears that we have a few of these removed and moved on rather to staff approval. Official ready? No. So the chair has arrived and we'll move to him helping with the meeting today. Wonderful. Good. We literally just got some applications. So, okay, great. We can start with the starting with continued application. Number 4, I believe. No, number 4.
Staff, I could probably just kind of run through the first few here. Number 1 for 3601 North High Street was actually moved to staff approval at the business meeting. So a certificate of appropriateness has been issued for that. Number 2, 789 Kimball Place. This is for new windows that were installed prior to approval and some work on the garage. The applicant has let me know that the original windows were installed in the room. I did go check that out and they have been installed. And they have not done any additional work at this point. So that is removed from the agenda. Number 3, 880 East Broad Street was also moved to staff approval at the business meeting. I'm waiting for some additional information that the commission requested before I issue that certificate of appropriateness. Number 4, 351, 353 East Northwood Avenue. They expect to attend in September, so we need a motion, please, to continue that to September.
Do I hear a motion to continue case number 4?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Hearing a motion and a second. Call for the vote here. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? Motion passes. Continue.
Number 5, 310 South High Street is the same issue. They expect to attend in September, so we need to have a motion to.
Do I hear a motion to continue case number 5?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposition? Motion passes. Case number 6.
6, well, we have someone attending for this location. 733 Wilson Avenue. Leaves and Sarah.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Hello.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the testimony, or tell the truth in your testimony this evening before the commission?
I do.
Wonderful. You can state your full name and association with the property for the record.
Susanna Lynch, and I am helping the owner with the renovation.
Okay, so the designer or consultant.
Yes.
Okay, so this has to do with installing new trim through the existing aluminum storm windows, repair existing original wood windows that's needed, like for like, and install new wood trim around the windows. Changing out non-original metal porch supports for new fiberglass columns was moved to staff approval at the August HRC business meeting. A COA has been issued for that work. The house includes a layer of asphalt siding and a layer of vinyl siding over the original siding. Existing windows are being repaired and interior storms installed on the facade. It appears some original wood trim still exists beneath the layer of siding. If non-original siding is removed in the future, owner would then repair existing trim or replace in kind. Recommend approval of the existing wood trim installation as an appropriate temporary measure. I did, the commission asked for an example of appropriately installed trim. If this on a house that doesn't have multiple layers, I did add that at the very end. Which basically just shows that trim should meet the siding and extend 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch above the siding surface.
As opposed to framing in.
And being flat, which they are now, but I don't see another solution at this point until the siding is removed.
I agree with that. I wish there was a better solution. I'm sure you wish there was a better solution. I don't see a better solution.
Okay.
I was wondering, if another wire board for that new board covering the white piece, but then you're so thick hanging out there that it's gonna look odd also, so.
Yeah.
It's probably good as done at the moment.
Flush with the trim.
Yeah.
I think you're better off that. Just thinking 300%.
Yeah, because it would just get so heavy and so odd looking, so. I think it's probably the best thing done, so. How do we approve this then? We can approve it as a test case. If we don't want to set a precedence, so.
I might just say, as you had said at this meeting, it's the best solution for the existing conditions until such time when the layers of siding are removed.
As a temporary solution.
Yeah, temporary. And just as you have this up there, this it was attempted and it wasn't successful. Just kind of stick a piece of, molding up there, so they will be.
Okay.
Now, I do have a question though. Is this only going to be done on the facade at this time?
Yes. Yeah, it's not on the sides. The storms are going to remain on the sides, and yeah, eventually the owner would like to take all the siding off, but it just began to really add up as far as costs.
So then this paint color, I guess, is that all being needed?
This being covered. The conditions going to be the window change. sash. And they're all the same.
But we didn't talk about paint color, but that is something that needs to be.
I think our impression was that this is a renewal. And some repair or cleanup or restoration of existing windows.
And you're getting back to white.
Yes.
Bolts. Good. Step with
This is number 6. Move that we approve HR-21-08-014A as a temporary solution for an existing situation. You're doing it on the front facade, right?
Yes.
On the front facade of the
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? We think you've got adequate notes on that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
You too.
Case number 758 Bedford Avenue.
758 Bedford Avenue for landscape hardscape. Application meets guidelines for landscaping and was moved to staff approval at the August 5th HRC business meeting. A COA has been issued, no action required.
Case number 848 Parkwood Avenue.
Yes, we have something to that.
The right answer. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony this evening?
I do.
The full name and association of property with the record.
I'm David Botero. I'm an architect with Schooley Caldwell, with project designers.
This is for an exterior lighting package, installing exterior lighting, including front, entry, side, entry, emergency light, ground level, up lights, and view down lights. General rehab and an addition were approved in June 2021 with details of the porch railing, a drawing for the front door and light fixtures to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval. The railings, front door, and all exterior lighting except the uplighting and downlighting has been approved. August 5th business meeting comments included: the commission does not support the downlighting in the front dormer or in the soffit on the main block of the house. Exterior lighting should be subtle, not overlit. Some uplighting could be appropriate, possibly at the base of each chimney. Revised plan was requested following the August 5th HRC business meeting. None new materials have been submitted. Historically, exterior lighting in residential neighborhoods was minimal, with simple porch lights and occasional street lamps. Contemporary expectations and safety or security concerns lead to far higher levels of nighttime light lighting in neighborhoods. Such demands should be met in ways that do not compromise the historic character of the site or district. Selective level lighting in key locations and use of directional fixtures is appropriate. Overlighting of the property is not appropriate. Timers and motion sensors that control light sources are also beneficial in limiting the impact of exterior lighting. The location, orientation, brightness, height, and design of new exterior lighting fixtures to be compatible with the human scale and historic character of this district. So my recommendation, since we do not have site plan or plans, would be to continue the local revised plan submitted. They want to talk to you about their current plan.
Yeah, we really would like to, first of all, we thank you for the staff approval and the consideration of the porch lighting, which we thought was certainly not very controversial. We didn't expect, much input on that, but we do think it's important to have some lighting of the facade, and we tried to find a way to do that in as subtle a manner as possible. So we're very open to the idea of controlling that lighting with timers or solenoid sensors, so it's only on when it needs to be. And certainly open to the idea of dimming that lighting so it's not overbrighting the building. We were conscious of selecting a lighting that had a color temperature, which was a warm white, which matches the the approved lighting on the porches and stuff. In looking at the neighborhood, we've gone and visited the neighborhood during the nighttime hours, and it's a very dark section of the street. There's no adjacent street lights, which are sort of spilling light onto the building. And so we felt that it is necessary to kind of bring some light to the building so that the porch lighting itself doesn't seem to sort of have a gloominess to it by just being a sort of wash of light right at the door and nothing else. And so we wanted to try to find a way to light the building without really shining light in the windows of the tenants. Being a residential building, we were very conscious of the fact that we couldn't back away and maybe just use a pole fixture and just sort of blast light the building because it's a residential building, people are sleeping there. We wanted to do the lighting in a subtle enough manner that we could light and maybe kind of graze the brick walls without really directing the light into the windows. So we tried to find some fixtures that we can put into the sections of the eaves where they're sort of concealed, and some ground locations where the fixtures can be discrete. We didn't really want to attach a lot of buildings to the face of the building because the exterior, brick masonry is not going to be very forgiving of any efforts to sort of make penetrations. The fixtures that we did mount on the fixtures were ones that were discrete and could cover the back box, and then we worked out a pathway on the inside of the building to feed directly from behind the fixture. So with a little bit of care on our part, we'll try to avoid exterior conduit on the building, but we didn't want to see a lot of conduit on the building. And we couldn't find locations where we could really uplight the chimneys effectively. The chimneys, the real feature that I think everybody enjoys, including us, is at the very top of the chimney. And unless we were willing to put fixtures kind of on the building that are sort of focused there, we couldn't really find a ground location that let us actually hit the top of the chimney. So we sort of conceded the fact that I don't think that we could find a way to light the chimneys properly. Whether the lighting of the dormer is sort of a step too far or not, we sort of wanted to light at least the face of the building, the street face of the building. But at night, it's really a very, very dark facade. So we wanted to find a way to lighten up the facade. We have some site lighting that's involved with the adjacent property to the south of this, which was being developed at the same time here as a companion project. We wanted this project to sort of come along. So we were thinking that we had done something that was kind of thoughtful in the fact that we weren't trying to apply a lot of fixtures to the building, and we were finding ground locations where the couple fixtures that are uplighting were hitting the masonry areas and not the windows. And by trying to find a way to light from the eaves, we thought that was a way to sort of wash the wall. Now, we can select different spreads for that. What we were hoping to do is not really have a defined scallop, on the wall from the lights, but to wash that as evenly as possible. Again, without really shining lights right into the windows of the apartments. So we think we have the right fixture. Our rendering might be underselling the project a little bit in terms of it wasn't a carefully, it's not relying on photometrics and that sort of stuff. It's sort of a simulation of where we're lighting it. And so maybe the scallops on our illustration are doing ourselves a disservice to the project. We can select a wider fixture so it's not a defined scallop like that at the top of the wall. And again, if maybe the lighting on the dormer, I discussed with the owner whether maybe that was a bit too much. So if that seems like it's over lighting to you, I think the owner is willing to maybe forego the lighting from the dormer. But we think that the uplighting and the downlighting is a good way to bring some brightness to that wall. It actually complements the lighting that you've approved on the porch and the side of the house. So it's our hope that you'll give this a little further consideration. But if we could hear some of your discussion, and that might be a way to zero in on the right solution here. But
Well, I will agree with you that illustration does show it is pretty heavily flooded. You know what the candle power would fall on the actual surface?
We're open to dimming it, and if there's a preferred foot candle, if you prefer 3-foot candles on the wall or 2-foot candles on the wall, we could dim it and try to hit that preferred foot candle. We're not proponents of overlighting the facade, I think, any more than you are.
I think that the other that with as many individuals seem like little lights, little decoration, little writing tape, and sort of just highlighting picture, and I think with just a few select uplights placed in landscaping that can be hid, they never actually, they're away from the structure, they don't actually, they can be hidden by landscape plantings, they don't actually have to impede any historic barrier.
Yeah.
You could actually do yourself a lot of service by just doing some tasteful uplighting around the entire foundation. That even, cast some subtle shadow, it's gonna pick up on all the pointing and all the horizontalness and all that. It's not gonna light it up top to bottom really bright, but it's gonna throw some light, it's gonna bring out some shadows, but it's also gonna still stay consistent with the treatment of historic districts, and there wouldn't have been, this is not an example of a building that had, lights on its facade and did a lot of that early stuff like what we saw in the early century. I think you have to have something that doesn't have a lot of this individual pin light stuff going on. I think there's concern that you're not shielded, you start to see those balls, and start to have
Yeah,
architectural elements very differently. Piece of modern highlighting some historic architecture.
We tried to find a fixture that's small enough, and I think we did, that it's going to hide behind the fascia. So I think in order to see this, you're going to have to be able to stand under the eave and look directly up. So I don't think you'll actually see the light source. If your preference would be to have sort of a continuous fixture, so there is no scalloping, we could go with a linear LED, but I think that's less controllable than the. Yeah.
That you're not calling out. Very individual spots.
Yeah.
You're adding an element of detail. I think what maybe most of the commission found, maybe most was that once you start doing that on the door, like you're even drawing attention of that eye to a little kind of rhythm and detail that just wouldn't never. Not to say that we don't like landscape, architectural lighting, state lighting. I think most of us thought there'd be a better way to do it. I think nobody had objections to ground up lighting. For us as a commission, most of the comments in the business meeting were about their position on the side.
Yeah, well, again, talking to the owner, he's of a mind that he thought maybe the dormer was something that he was willing to concede on. I think the uplighting from the ground were limited really to just the front of the building or the south side of the building, because we don't have access on the east side to be, they would have to be in-ground sidewalk fixtures, because there's a sidewalk and then the alley. We don't really have any space there to put any fixtures. So either we don't light the sides or we only light the sidewalk is continuous there and goes along there. So there's really no location where we can light that side of the building. So we opted to not put any lighting on the sides of the house, the building, just on the front. And we wanted to locate the uplighting so that it wasn't really shining directly into the windows, because those will both be apartments on both sides there. So
One would assume there's window treatments. Day and age of blackout shades. That, although I think the message we're saying is subtle, don't put big wall. Lighting, maybe not. I think the applicant sort of needs to decide options.
Is there an site plan?
No. Well, yeah, if there was the parking,
But nothing to the side.
parking is actually across outside of. So I think that's what. Right, Dave, I forgot that.
yeah, the site is to the east of the building, and there is parking lot lighting that was on the site plan that was submitted, but most of that site is not in the boundary of the historic site here.
There hasn't been anything like the sidewalks in the front or.
The site plan showed our intended paving and planting, which is, replacing this sidewalk in kind with a new sidewalk that isn't cracked and eaved. but it follows the same pattern and it mirrors it on the south side.
I mean, you know, I know from my own lots of light fixtures that can even, you have a sidewalk, there's a lot of in-ground, in-grade light fixtures still running out playing, and they're not protected. Including, you know, making sure you get something that highlights the chimney. You mentioned the chimney, but I think something that really jumped out going specifically for those chimneys.
Yeah, again, hitting the top of the chimney, you're either mounting it to the building, which you can do, but then we're going to deal with the conduit on the outside of the building.
What is the objection to subtle approaches to?
I mean, I think what we have is fairly subtle, and I guess if we go more subtle than this, I don't know that we're really lighting the building, so yeah, are we benefiting from the lighting, you know?
Sure, we could. Or we may be able to. What they would prefer.
Based on my interpretation of your comments is that I think applicant could see where the vote might go.
Well, I mean, based on the comments, I think the owner is completely open to the idea of using controls, dimming it to try to control the brightness, looking at all those things, spacing of the fixtures.
We need that information.
The approval can't be conditioned on provision of those sorts of things.
I definitely like to see it. Even with the dormer lights going to be appreciated, I think it'd be nice to see it in the rendering. And this becomes to the architectural piece itself. It's hard to now conceive what it might be has been. Said that our rendering might not be doing justice, so maybe it connected with the kind of brightness that you believe it's going to be. Might help us make our case view and then image factor, maybe that would help us.
If it's compelling enough, you know, to some package coming back to us, there's a chance that it's going to work quickly to get staff. They could come up in our business meeting and work on the vote. And we kind of already did that piece of this project because we felt comfortable with it, so we staff approval. So what I would suggest is just, you know, my suggestion is to continue to work on it, get something revised to us to actually consider. If you look at that for staff.
Sure, but is the concern again the brightness, which we could handle with you know, dimmers and controls? You know, is that really the central concern, that you don't want the building overlit from a foot candle point? Is there a target foot candle that you're looking for?
I think my concern is that it doesn't end up seeming like a row of very specific directed lights like the rendering you provided.
So
Have a very specific image, very direct.
a more continuous level of illumination along the top, no scalloping.
I think it's totally inappropriate. It's really tremendous amount of aesthetic. Other sensitive methods of introducing light that would be equally as sensitive to the building itself. And I think that's kind of what we're generally discussing. There's not one specific amount of lumen, one package or one fixture. And we certainly don't want to design it for you. We just want to be able to look at what this is globally and say, either it helps from a preservation standpoint, or in this case, I think this is inappropriate.
The other thing, I do remember this other additional comment we had just for the packages. You know, you've got these uplights at the corners, for example. But yet, one of the best features of this house is the masonry porch and all the detail on it. Yet you didn't really put 4 of them, say, at each of these columns where a very funnel light fixture may be really appropriate to, you know, illuminate the front porch and some of the other architectural features. So there's a question of what is the priority of what you're trying to uplight, what you're trying to light. And you had mentioned the chimney. I don't see anything here even showing off the chimneys.
No,
So
we didn't even attempt to.
So there's some question about what is your goal and what we're trying to achieve, because right now the 6 soffit lights seem distracting, I think, to most of us, and probably didn't even do the house justice. And the dormer, I think most of us just felt was really out of context.
So at this point, it sounds like we have a couple of options. So we could provide a continuation if you'd like to consider that, or we can move forward as it's presented.
I guess a continuation would be the way we'd go. I can consult with the owner to see how far they'd like to take it and see what
Thank you
they
for
want
the
to do.
explanation. I mean, that helps.
Yeah, great.
So comfortable with this, to get something very direct,
The,
that doing sort of a straw poll, is there any, are any of the commissioners in support of using any lighting inside?
I'm personally.
If I could be sure that it's even and that it doesn't look like got spots coming down, I may be persuaded, but, probably a minority there, so it's probably worth trying to figure that out. I think we're probably better off for an option. And looking at that porch and some of the other.
sure, okay. And do I understand that the porch lighting, the other things that were staff approved are still approved? Okay, all right, great. All right, thanks very much.
We would have until, Friday to get it to be, because then I need to get it to the commission. It's September 2nd, and as I said, consider it appropriate, maybe it could be some, that approval of that.
Sure.
And we would even welcome you to attend a staff meeting. We generally don't have, or a business meeting, we don't generally have an interaction with the applicant, but at least you're able to hear our comments first.
Mhm.
Foremost, and if we do have extra time at the end of the meeting, they could talk to you and answer a question or two.
Okay, great, thanks.
I'd like to make a motion for HR -21, -018 for you, Parkwood to continue to the next.
I hear a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstention? Any opposition? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming in.
Case number 9, 1703 Brighton Road.
Great, thanks for coming in.
We have a general, can we just pull up one of the
Yeah,
chairs?
just pull a chair out.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Just trying to get, if you're gonna be speaking, try to be on camera.
Okay.
When you're speaking, it's a bit difficult with this camera screen, so you can see yourselves kind
I haven't read it in 3 years.
So I will actually have all three of you. You all swear to tell the testimony.
I do.
Yes, I do.
And each of you can state your full name, association with property for the record.
I'm Jill Brandt. I'm the architect.
Ryan Farrell, the contractor.
Gary Chapman, the realtor.
Ryan Fair,
Okay.
easy name.
Here's the-
Jill Brandt, Brandt. I'm the architect.
Okay. So this is, has a few different parts here, and we've talked about, there's several general repairs that have been staff approved, and new windows will also be staff approved. But this part is to demolish and rebuild the rear sleeping porch. To install new, OD gutters on the main roof and porches of the house. Remove the existing concrete driveway and private road to the rear yard and install new concrete. Demolish the circa 1920 frame garage. The house and garage have been in disrepair for many years. Rebuilding of the porch and second floor sleeping porch based on physical evidence of its neighboring twin house. Based on discussion at the August 5th business meeting about the original metal gutters and sections of original soffit that have been removed in the past. Installation of OG gutters appears to be an appropriate solution. Based on discussion at the August 5th business meeting, the chevron design of the concrete driveway does not appear historic. Installing a new concrete driveway is appropriate. Based on staff site visits, demolition of the existing garage appears appropriate based on its deteriorating condition. The size and form of the garage are unusual, and the original details of the contributing garage should be replicated as closely as possible to convey its architectural and historical significance, including wood siding and overhead vehicular doors to match the original design as closely as possible. At this point, I believe there is two options, one to put vinyl siding on it and one for wood siding. I'm not really supporting the vinyl siding in this particular.
Do you want to add anything this evening?
Um, I think the sleeping porch is fairly straightforward, well, in my opinion, it's straightforward. It's pretty typical of the era, and there's a few in the neighborhood still intact, which we were able to use as a model for details. So our goal was really to just kind of replicate the original intention. As far as the garage is concerned, we're going to be replicating the size, trying to reinstall some carriage style looking doors with some glass similar to what's there. As far as the vinyl siding versus the wood, it's a large garage. It's 38 and a half feet by 20 feet 2 inches, I believe. So obviously the vinyl siding would be a little more cost effective for us for the size. And I had proposed using a wider board rather than the standard 5x5. Just thinking that would add a little character and uniqueness and make it look less like every other garage. If we did the wood siding, we would stick with the 5 1/4 boards. The only other request that I would like the board to consider is, I don't know how strict you are on the height. The original garage had a 9'6" top plate. And we would like to drop that down a couple inches so that we could put, the 4-inch concrete block and a standard 9-foot pre-cut stud. I think it only reduces it by a couple inches. And there's just a great deal of efficiency in materials there for us. And the other request would be the original door was 17 and a half feet, I think by 8. Excuse me, I think it was by 7 because it was a short. So we would like to propose if we could use a 16-foot wide standard size garage door rather than 17 and a half custom size. And the garage does have doors on both sides that it was existing, and we will be replicating that as well.
For the record, I think the proposal, the garage doors that are here now, I let them know that I didn't really support that, and I thought that the doors should be very close to the overhead doors for the existing doors on both on the front and back, and they're plain on the alley side, waxing them.
I mean, from how the other members of the, I actually know that this house has been in rotten condition for many. Actually, a failure of paint in the garage, several garage section. There's actually a pretty common issue with carpenter answers for mice and the other general, but a lot of those garages are hybrid. You have one of the bigger garages. I don't even know, probably is the back half just sleepers on grade, or is it actually even hybrid block on? Some of the bigger garages are these hybrids with sleepers.
There is a big concrete curb around it because the slope pitches down a little bit, and we're gonna have to, you can see right there, one of the photos, you can kind of see it in the. Not sure where that one's at.
From the
I
next
guess my
photo.
concern
Yeah,
with
right
the
there.
proposal was, we know we have a documented case of wood siding. In this case, this isn't just a new garage, no precedent. And if you're putting back, you want to make sure it's light for light and really putting back light for light. I think I'm more amenable to seeing transition from wood to these hardy products that can mimic this stuff pretty
Okay.
close. But I think the vinyl in this case may be a harder stretch, only given the precedent. We know it was there, and it's still sort of there. So.
I on a totally new build garage. Vinyl's allowed.
And in this case, we've got some historic, right, this is a replacement.
This is a replacement because we're allowing demolition.
Yes.
So therefore, it's a little different situation than if they were just building there's no garage there, we need a garage, and we want that same sort of stamped out line. This is a demolition request, and so therefore it's a replacing. So
Maintaining the same rhythm.
I would support that along with letting them change the dimensions slightly, so there'd be a cost savings on the dimension changes. Therefore, that might help a little bit if they would want to go hard work. So, I mean, I think there's going to compromise both ways there.
Sure.
That we kind of understand.
But then when I start to look at the other details too, I mean, like the beadboard garage door,
Mhm.
I mean, that's classic historic character right there. And the question becomes, is there anything that should be done to preserve this kind of history?
There are some garage doors that we sort of discussed back and forth a little bit, that are, I couldn't find anything really that has that sort of chevron look, but garage doors that are more simple carriage doors that I think could be appropriate, but it's not going to replicate exactly.
Yeah, my personal opinion as an architect is I think the carriage style garage door seems to be very appropriate for the period. So to have the back door be something different, I think it starts to look one off and it loses that historic element to it, is my opinion.
Additionally, sort of like one of the things I noticed, that was unique when you had when you had some of these classic garages in these neighborhoods, there was a sign of wealth. These were like early adopters of the automobile, especially along Bride Road. There were a lot of car club people, early car club people. And in this case, like, your garage has a number of windows that you're proposing to put on the back. So I think we really need to see something that mimics the historic structure. I think we've got 3 windows there. Dormer. We've got to make sure that those things are going back. You really
Okay.
need to change the structure, but bring. If that's what you.
Is the dormer important, do you think? Or if we added more windows? Okay. And you want to see it on the back, not the front? Okay.
Context of the building next to it.
Right.
Okay. If we do the hardy siding, are you guys comfortable with that 5 1/4 board size?
Our standard is the small.
If you can find that, I'm not sure if you can find that.
Okay,
For me, it's usually too.
It's too big.
okay. All right, well, let's do some looking into that. I mean, I think we would be grateful to have the opportunity to use hardy board rather than the cedar for a garage that size. I mean, I guess I think my understanding of the process is we need your approval first before we can get approval from the city to start permitting. And,
Perhaps what I suggest that for is in the event that you try to look back.
that'd be lovely.
Fine.
Because we're ready to go. Thank you.
Yeah, there are no issues on the house, so I think we.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned.
Definitely garage can be.
So then the process is if we could get approval on the house part, then we would resubmit or update the garage and we'd have to come back again, or is that administrative staff approval?
Staff would bring it up. We then discuss whether it's something that we. Back.
Not a problem.
Perfect,
problem.
great. Do you guys have any other questions or any, and you guys communicate about which door styles the board prefers?
Make sure you have all of your light fixtures documented.
Okay. Okay.
All that.
Okay,
Friday morning. Okay.
Perfect.
Distribute it to them for the business.
Okay. Excellent.
okay.
I'd like to make a motion for HR 21 -019 Andrews Road. This would be A. A includes the demolition and rebuilding of the sleeping porch as noted in the current application. Also include installation of the gutters that were described in the application. Would also include the removal of the existing driveway extending from private road, here install new concrete in the same footprint like.
Clerk will hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Further discussion? Okay, move for a vote then. All those in favor say aye. Abstentions? Motion A passes, or for case A passes.
And as well, HR 21-08-019B. It's going to include a portion of the application specifically dealing with demolition and rebuilding the garage. Continue that September, from September. Should be.
Fair motion. Do I hear a second?
I think there was a motion.
Sorry. I heard a motion, I heard a second. I will call for a vote. Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? Passes.
Great house.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your time. No problem.
Case number 10, 140 East 16th Avenue. I'd like to make a motion to do that to the September. And a second. Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any abstentions? Case number 11, 1041 Brighton Road. Good job. Have a seat there.
Sure.
Wonderful. And do you swear to tell the truth in the testimony you're about to give me for commission this evening?
I do.
Wonderful. You can state your full name and association with the property for the record.
I'm Jeffrey Marion. I'm the owner of the property.
Thank you. Wonderful. Coming in, Connie?
So this is for a new, or existing non-original report and build a report second floor under. Spiral stair, pressure treated wood framing, retaining, composite deck and composite deck. August 5th business meeting comments included, converting a window to a door is not consistent with the guidelines. Large two-story deck structure is not typical of the neighborhood. The exterior spiral stair case is out of context of the neighborhood. And while the previously approved porch does not match the original footprint shown on assembler maps, the style is appropriate for the house. Conceptual, provide comments, no action.
Would you like to add? Bring up your drawing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't want you to think it is a, suburban deck system. I mean, what I'm trying to do is rebuild my deck porch, add a rooftop to it. The details are based on similar porch designs in the area. I left it on the planar side as to not distract from the front of the house. The spiral stair was basically, because it fit the need, it was tucked into that space. There's another house on down that has a spiral on the back of the house that I don't know how original it is, but it has a period look. So after seeing that, it kind of made sense that that would be a way to incorporate a stair without having your normal switchback stair. The overhead, when you look at the overhead in the property, as far as on the site plan, it looks larger than actually the reality is. There's a 2-foot overhang or 2-foot soffit, if you will, that is depicted in that photo or in that drawing. So it's 2 foot smaller when you see the actual drawing. The proportions basically are being changed from what I have presently. There was some modification done to whatever that porch previously that was approved. So I have a double angle on the corner of the existing one now. What I've done is I've taken the back of the structure and pushed it in 2 foot to give me more of a depth in the backyard. And since they had a side yard, because I have a lot and a half, so I moved it out on the side of the house to give me more space there for dining, which is very cramped as it is now. That's how the proportions change. I think technically it's right around 40 square foot difference in size without that connection to that spiral. So 40 square feet is kind of minimal, really. The spiral itself, like I said, is tucked back in from the corner of the house. I think the trajectory is like about a foot out past the farthest part on the side. It just seemed to fit the bill. As far as, changing the rear window to a door, well, obviously there's a lot of sleeping porches on the back of all these houses. It made sense, obviously, for access to the sun deck and as well. And so it's just kind of not a feature that's uncommon in the type of this house. That was before my time right there. Yeah, I would too. I mean, to be honest with you, I've not been able to find anything historically to show me. I'm assuming it was modeled very similar to the house adjacent because they seem to be like built at the same time. I think they were like spec houses or something.
I recall sort of the census. Some of the consensus was just a concern about the appropriateness of spirals there, even though there may be a spiral stair in interval, it may not be. There are things that happen, things that are.
The home I was speaking of is on Brighton Road.
Something was approved, then they made a door or a window. Exactly, but then something happened, and so when it came back to you, it was like, oh, shoot, now we can't do what was approved, and we wouldn't have approved this. But we kind of didn't know what else at that point, so not necessarily. So approved.
Would have improved, right? And then I think secondarily, the other concern was just the appropriateness of second floor deck. I know there's probably precedent based on photos for just having a simple. I think most of it didn't find the actual overall shape of the porch by any. Just the photo of the second floor deck was in itself.
Do you think there's just too much upper deck where like maybe the back portion could be a deck and the rest be a pitched roof?
That's a question, like, change of design changes.
I mean, just because I've seen other, I don't know how old they are, if they're existing or being remodeled or whatever, where there are decks on backs of houses on the second story. You know, a sleeping porch without a roof, or they're not being enclosed, things like that.
Help the scale. I mean, right now the double deck is changing the scale and the proportion. And trying to look at understand what falls in.
Mhm.
The suggestion of reducing the upper deck a little bit, adding the roof. I guess we need to see it. I don't want to promise saying that would work.
Uh,
But I honestly don't know if that could change the height scale issue in terms of the height.
The scale is actually in proportion to the house. What is existing is very out of scale. I mean, the porch posts are like, I think, less than 8 foot for what's there now. So I had it designed or drawn to appropriate proportion as far as height.
Stand back to the front of the house.
Hmm.
So the other question is, because you have a lot and a half, is where does it start and then that upper deck starts to stick out from the house where you're gonna start seeing the street?
It shows on the overview in the architect's drawing that shows the projection. I believe it probably sticks out maybe 3 foot past the widest part of the house, thereabouts. I know the spiral stuck out like a foot, and then there's the X part of the porch.
One thing that maybe talk about that's really significant, we sort of glanced over, the likelihood of an approval from a window to the door. And what I've sort of gathered, particularly even for myself, I would not be in favor. That may change the overall vision of what you have for the porch. So if you don't have access through the exterior of that,
Right.
I don't know. Function of what it is.
Well, it obviously would deter it. Why a rear window being changed to a door is an aesthetic problem? I mean, it would be the same proportions, just it would be a door, not a window, obviously.
On the changing to the door, are you saying you're not changing the size of the opening at all?
Well, obviously, if it's a window becoming a door, so the only thing would change would be I would taking out the space below the window.
Because we recently approved one which the windows were deteriorated such that they unusable, but they were not changing the size of the opening. The opening was large enough for a door already,
Oh,
and they simply added a couple of steps in the back of the house. The deck was going to go over in addition to the house, so the impact was pretty minimal. And so, but here you'd be actually changing the opening, seal.
as far as where the threshold would be, yeah. I think it's like about 18 inches or
This
so.
is a whole different issue. Whereas on that one, I think with the frame, it was very large.
So, okay, I understand.
So they could do it if the window wasn't for all intents and purposes night anyway. So the idea there was, well, change it back again. And they also were not adding the floor, which floor stepped out to.
Right. As an addition. Okay.
So that we approved. This is different. This is, you're asking to remove the sort of fabric. You don't follow that.
Yeah, the only thing I think would be remaining historical is just the fact that it's the brick, you know? The windows, I think, were replaced back in the 80s by somebody, but.
Right. Yeah, that you do. You'll see it when you meet. So that 10,000.
Is the overall footprint of the structure proposed, I mean, is that acceptable or? I mean, if I have to forego a roof deck, that's not the beginning of the end.
I'm okay with the ground floor piece of it. I realize it's larger, it's in the back.
I'll give it that.
I mean, the sun deck was just a dream, so it's like, you know, a wish list.
That's already.
Stoop or something.
94. An existing.
Of course, I think his angles and lines are.
Yeah, there's a odd angle.
Sort of. Relatively in kind with the, just basically a roof on your
Mhm.
proposed planning.
That would be fine. I mean, it's the overall footprint that works the best for our needs. Like I said, the sun deck was a dream or a wish list, so.
What I guess I would probably suggest is maybe a motion.
Might not even need a motion.
Oh, okay. Right, then we're,
One little piece I would like to add, are you notice we have some historical photos of the coasting.
But is that on the back of the house? I know the side showed some.
What I'm gonna say is I imagine there was something on the back.
See, that's the side, the alley side there, which is still prevalent. I can see that currently.
And I imagine, as I'm about to say, you'll probably see some of that. I think as long cohesiveness between the way that the current porch meets the building,
Mhm.
staying within that parameter of what was there and what currently exists. I think.
Whereas proportions.
So
Yeah.
when you architecturally, it gives you perhaps looking into a little bigger footprint.
Slightly
That roof
one
is
area,
gonna stretch out a little further,
right?
which is gonna alter the pitch.
The roof line, sure.
So,
Yeah, the only evidence of the back porch that I can see presently is just where a vertical post was up against the house, which shows on that door there. And that's the only thing I can see now. I don't have any other images.
that help.
Yeah, I mean, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. Like I said, I could probably have my architect, redraw it with a roof line. If you're okay with it, if the footprint is wrong.
I think there was a slight concern about the overall perspective from the street. Perhaps the drawing doesn't necessarily look at this select board comment. So perhaps some screening to that landscaping.
Absolutely. Which that's all in the works. It's just the showing of it.
You know, and as your architect kind of make like section. Overhang.
I think the overhead's too steep on those.
Standard.
Mm.
Staff approval. You have to probably. Probably a pretty comprehensive package.
Be fine with it.
And if it's close enough, perhaps even in that approval item, or just many things are.
Mhm. I don't know when the next, how far out do you push this, or is it a reapplication?
Not a reapplication, you just work with me.
Okay,
The deadline is always the day after the hearing, but if you've been here as a conceptual, you get an extra week. So that would be in by next Friday. I don't know if because it's fast.
that's the problem, because I'm going out of town tomorrow, so. That'd be
Give you
fine,
enough time to work.
absolutely. For the schedule, okay.
Well, I follow up better with that.
Okay.
Select board, really fire first. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
For valuable.
Yes, that's been very helpful.
Case number 12, also conceptual review, 1770. Case number 13, 497 East Town Street. It says conceptual review, so.
Oh, you're right.
Afternoon.
Here.
If I can have you all read. These words,
Yes. David Maleka, architect.
Matt Lutz. I'm with the owner of the project, Columbus Downtown Development Corporation.
And I'm Eric Bull. I'm with Elford Incorporated, the construction manager.
The affordable housing. So 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom unit. East Town Street Historic District includes a collection of 9. Bible, Southwest and Queen houses. Majority of buildings are 2 and 1/2 story detached residences constructed of brick. There are also examples of early art buildings, also with brick and ranging from 2 to 6 stories. 4-story brick Ohio Asylum for the Education. Stood across the street from this site until it burned in 1981. I bring those things up is that illustrate that there's history of 4 to 6 buildings. Landscaping and open space are important features of the district. 10 photographs indicate a 2 and 1/2 story stucco dwelling with twin front bays stood at this site until eventually demolition of a circa 1970s building was approved on the site. Been vacant since that time. The standards for new construction apply, listed in the following page, and brick should be the predominant exterior. Divided like windows should be slated divided by conceptual provided.
I think we actually spoke, so now we're sort of, you want to add anything before we?
No, again, we took a relook and I think we added some additional documentation based on what you guys had asked for. So streetscape showing the building in relationship to the housing on either side of it. We also took a look at the precedents for siding material in this district and shot pictures of specific areas that included siding. And then we included, hopefully if you've got it, a fly-through animation to show kind of how this feels and how it really fits in, looking up and down, not only the Main Street, but town, town, I don't know why, but Washington as well, and seeing how it fits in with the existing context. We did discuss the idea of putting more brick in. We felt, I think, kind of our internal discussions, feeling strongly that we wanted to have less brick on this project. We thought it softened the product, especially because of the height. It's again, it is a taller structure, so keeping it mainly on the base of it and bringing it up to the 4th level of the turret to kind of give it some emphasis, but again, softening that product. We think we're going to be putting a lot of detail in the architecture itself with columns and moldings and showing these porch elements, this overlay onto it that we would just really feel that the necessity for more brick wasn't there. Yeah, good.
Planners and
Um,
designer.
I am, okay with this. I think it meets the character of the neighborhood. I'm glad it's not the typical kind of apartment, urban type box that we've been seeing around lately. Like the fact that there's some detailing on it. I think will age better than some of the stuff that's being built in the city. So I commend you. It's a good project. I look forward to seeing it. Totally in support of it.
I appreciate having the precedent images. I think it really helps to understand the context. I agree. I think it's an interesting project. And it's unique in its own self and fitting in.
I guess my thought additionally at this point would be is I was sort of about this wraparound sort of drive. A little spur and then feel adequate. And then is there anything you can do to sort of soften the garage side of it? So we're watching, I think Washington is the side street there. Is if you go to sort of the side elevation area, it's just kind of like bars and openings. You just there, I mean, that right there. You know, right now, that's not going to feel very nice at a pedestrian level if you're along the street. Is what could be done there? That's my.
Well, Yeah, I think a couple of things. We're dealing with an open garage, so we're gonna have that and we're trying to secure it, so it's twofold. So there'll be we haven't designed specifically what the infill of that be, but we know we're gonna have some sort of aluminum product in there. We're also gonna have an edge of landscape along that edge too. So it's not, this building doesn't sit right on the property line. It sits back. It actually has to because of the power lines that are along that edge. So we're gonna landscape that, and that'll show up in our next package to you, that you'll see that overlay.
Sure, plantings could go over.
Yeah, I would fully agree. Yes. You don't want those little pom, what we call them? Yes.
I have a question with, at the top of the turret where it's all glassed in, is that actually gonna be some usable space or is it just,
Yeah, I'm actually, yesterday was working on that. It's a loft for the unit below. So it'll be an open, you come up to an open loft. Right now it has a bathroom up there and it overlooks probably a dining space or a living space below.
oh, nice.
Yeah, it'll be a nice unit. It will be used.
It's always fun when those spaces are actually used.
Yeah, getting lights on and off and actually feeling like there's activity up there.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's gonna be the prominent where we do want to be.
There's actually some nice.
And you mentioned the wraparound porch. I mean, part of that is, that Queen Anne aesthetic always had a partial porch kind of that came out of it. So again, this isn't obviously a direct copy of Queen Anne, but definitely an interpretation, hopefully a modern, sort of a modernized interpretation of that.
Does anyone want to speak to the brick and try that? Okay.
So I personally agree with structure that's this tall. Then scale this up meeting differently. That's my personal.
And this would be a siding product that would not be like.
Correct.
and Smaller dimensions, smaller laps, so we have something still.
So the plan is that the middle section of the building will have one type of siding and then the upper part will have another. So we are looking at different either widths or styles. The problem right now, we're trying to find a cementitious product that could maybe do scallops or do specific things. Right now, for some reason, they don't like to ship to Ohio. It's weird, but there's specific regions that they'll ship to and they don't like to ship to the north.
So 2, 3, and 4, one material, 5's a different.
It is,
I think it's gonna be scale.
right.
They're gonna have scale. Give a little near, pushing in from a side street.
Let's also talk about page number 7, actually, Alex, you're just on it. So you're gonna see this building from a lot of different other angles. Just, scroll down just a little bit more. Have we addressed that, correct? You've done excellent work on the fronts. Side. So this is gonna be higher than, 90% of the neighborhood around. So. My concern was that the same log doesn't continue onto being it doesn't probably need to be fully four-sided architecture because it's got a substantial house or two on one side of it. But maybe the alleyway side, it's gonna be seen from Main Street and some other areas pretty easily. And this is the view you're gonna really look at.
So I think one of the ways we're trying to address that, and if you can go to the color elevations, I mean, we're gonna use this dark green and this sort of taupey coloration on this. So the dark green is it's gonna wrap itself around the building, and we're gonna try to use that coloration to try to add some extra layer of, I think, interest to that backside. I mean, it faces an alley, that north end, and we think predictably that, that site on the other side of this, which is parking lot, is going to be developed. I mean, it's a matter of time, and we're trying to keep that I mean, I think traditionally what you see is smart faces on streets and dumbed down, simplified faces on non-streets, and that's sort of been our approach. in
But
this.
then I would agree that some of the historic buildings are taller. Still have treatments on ours.
I think they're treatments, but they're dumbed down. They're not the same. I mean, Huntington's a great example. You look at the front, it's got a great front on the square. I'm talking about Old Huntington. But the sides become very simplified, and so the back.
But I think the density of that building is. What
Right.
Joe's saying is, I think you see that view, this is very strongly perceived by the neighborhood residential area. So if there was some way to kind of soften that up a little, that'd be something to take. Yeah, this is all conceptual. So
Yeah.
far, you've nailed it, and this might be something.
Yeah, 'cause we moved on, you moved from the front side is very elegant.
Yeah.
Balconies, treatments, cornices. And you get on the back, it just seems like it's just a smattering of either Juliet or just very simple balconies, very different language on the back side than it is on the other two sides. And I think we're asking for a complete level to be wrapped around in great detail, but I think just something, this just doesn't get there quite yet on this side.
Okay.
Personally.
Again, back to the ground level too. Talked about on the other side of stuff. So thinking about somebody, even if there is a development coming right next to them at some point. Human scale. The elevation of the world.
Alex, the joy of technology, you can almost go Google, you can go Google Earth and like roughly then 2 blocks out, literally look up the street and yeah. You know, look at how much you're gonna see around here, because a lot of this is sort of open right now, and yeah, development will happen over time, things will fill in, that as you get close to the building, you won't see it forever. But kind of consider what you can see even above existing historic structure. If there's a way you can go down one, you can. Start to go down a little bit further and look back, and it's like, you know, you're gonna see that back elevation pretty strongly from a lot of other people.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that side and try to, you know, give it a little bit more, pizzazz, call it.
I mean,
I mean, it's amazing to me how much treatment is on the historic character of the houses, you know, on the backs of these houses. You know, from those little dirty buildings, there's a different language on the alley. We just,
But overall,
yeah, overall, you're having right correct.
nailed it.
And so the color will be more of that grayish tan rather than some of the kind of yellow.
Yeah, I think it's we will, again, coming with, accurate paint chips next time. I think the hand renderings are more accurate because I can control my markers a little better than computers. It's just something we gotta do. And again, picking out the bricks, still gotta pick out the brick stuff. And when you get the bricks, that's gonna help us give us a read on what that, the siding really wants to be as well.
How many variances are
I don't think there are any. I think we're hitting all the setbacks.
This is a deck now.
But I think we're overparked.
strong?
depends on who you ask.
I know. You ask the lenders, they tell us something different for some reason.
Do you have any other questions for us?
I mean, I'm excited about it. We're really looking forward to kind of bringing the next level to you.
That's a fun corner to really.
I think this is what, as far as the brick, I think this was what was kind of a little bit of a shock or more than we think it's brick because of the contrasting color there,
Right.
and that's not really the color.
I don't think so. Again, I'm anticipating that we're gonna have sort of a, you know, the coining being on the brown range and then the brick itself being more on the taupe with some maybe red background. So I'm thinking but I'm saying that's, whatever that brick color is, I wanna pick that up in the siding, is my thought. And
And then Tony, this was the one where you also, we did some communication.
Maybe you saw that.
Yes.
Yes.
Just as a goodwill gesture, you know, that's not for probably not the residents, it's not historic. As far as our, I mean, our purview is not in the concerns they raise, but just you're aware of the communication.
It makes sense.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Great, well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate the input.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. It's a good.
You're still welcome to come up and speak if you'd like to speak. You're welcome to come up and we can swear you in. You're able to speak on the record if you'd like. Are you sure? Okay.
I'm sure, we can.
What I would do is folks that raise their hands and sit.
Sure.
And then there are speaker slips, actually. Did you find a chance to fill those out, or if you don't mind, we'll
Sure.
get back on again.
Do they know?
Can you let them know, fine, real quick, just so that they may choose to.
It was-
in the room?
Ask them,
That's it.
are they, this, the thing we're gonna speak over with, you.
Yeah, real quick, you,
Catherine Geffen.
raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth in the testimony this evening before the question,
We do.
and, state your full name for the record.
Catherine Ann Geppert,
And again, what's your address?
475 East Town Street.
And your name, sir?
And Jeffrey J. Gefford.
Sorry, well, I assume-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
Formerly known as the Slaughter. Thank you. Yeah, no, just to sort of reiterate what we sort of communicated, both to the commission and to the Columbus Downtown Development Corporation. We had sort of three main points that we wanted to iterate. One is our general support for the project. We're very excited about the development of not only that property, but the adjacent properties as was referred to. The more people in the community that live downtown, the better, for everybody. So we're very supportive of the project in general. We just did want to point out that the home obviously is in a historic area. There are some very sort of culturally and historically significant aspects to some of those historic properties that are adjacent to this construction. And so we just wanted to ensure that the methods of construction were consistent with best practices for the preservation of adjacent historic properties. And we communicated a set of guidelines from the National Park Service that lay out a set of recommendations that we suggested that the development team, the construction team, and the owner all sort of take into consideration. And part of that is the third thing, which is to communicate with the people in the surrounding adjacent properties, just sort of recommending that there be some dialogue and communication. And we will say that the Downtown Development Corporation has been very responsive. You've reached out several times. They actually stopped by the house this afternoon to talk with us, and so we're very appreciative of that. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
To hear your concerns, I think, the commission's purview of course is to judge. Our guide is. a city field staff to watch over them, protect the property. We do hear your concern.
Well, and just having a good vibe of understanding, observing the fabric, I mean, that's sure about us. What we're here for. And I think that the team that wants to build this project wants this to be a lifelong corner. So I think it's, so far, they've done a really good job to get the rhythm,
agree.
the feel, the material base, from what I gather, initially in that conceptual stage. So they're very strong teams.
Yeah.
I would expect them to.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. If you
Thank
mind
you.
filling the slips up for us.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make two comments. One was that you had mentioned just the history. I just wanted you to be aware of the history of the house, that it does have very strong presence in the United States, but also on an international level with the Rickwood Pottery Room in the building. And it was the first factory owned in the United States by a woman, so we're very proud of that fact and its relationship to the arts and crafts movement on a global basis. And then the second, I just wanted to commend you on your attention to the building on Walnut, the side of the building on Walnut Street, because there is a lot of walking in the Discovery District, and people really enjoy walking from the different neighborhoods, from Bryden Road to German Village. And so the fact that you're on task with the architect to develop a more finished product, I think will continue to align with the walkability and the use of the district. So thank you.
That brings down new business. How do you do that?
We do. Probably person that joined us here. So that's great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Last.
So I was at the business. If you want to, everyone else talk about their background stuff, you want to say what you do, what you're interested in preservation.
Sure.
So, last time we turned on.
We're still.
Yeah.
But we can do, Clyde, would you like to?
What we're gonna do.
Okay, so I guess I'm the unmet here. I'm in a building downtown and I'm doing work on the continental cornice, and this man was yelling at me and pointing and waving. And so I stopped what I was doing. His name was Brian. And so I got to know Randy and understanding preservation because my building. So I've always had a passion for that. Jewelry store in the building. And, it's been that's it.
Me too. I always have an open planet, but again, I work very downtown. Yeah, I'm just enjoying kind of new aspect of understanding history and
I think you did great. Several bullet points you brought up today. Said that because it's interesting. You know, you want to get the vibe of what
yeah. Keep up with more.
Keep up the good work.
And just to reiterate, expect to have another September after the album.
Great.
Great. That concludes new business. There is no public business. So I would take a motion to adjourn. So wonderful. Motion and second. Any all those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Abstentions? Meeting is closed at 5:34 p.m.
Yeah, nice.